Hello, Steve White, Steve Arts 89. Well, this is not the first time I've tried to make this video. I, for some reason, tuned into Robert Meyer Burnet's 1000th episode of Robservations live stream, probably because I wanted to be on the show, but he wouldn't have me on, because I've wanted to talk to him for ages, but, he won't talk to real people. Only the people he knows, won't challenge him on anything. So yeah, a little bit of bitterness there. I wanted to see who had on the show. Not a surprise who had on the show, but I just was listening for a while, but I got to the point where I just couldn't stomach it anymore, and I had to do a little bit of counter programming, do my own video, have a little bit of YouTube therapy, because they got into the subject of superheroes and Superman killing, and it made me a little sick to see Rob Meyer Burnett's take on this. Now, everyone on the panel was arguing with him. He was basically justifying the idea that superheroes have to be real. They have to be in the real world. We can't have fantasy. We can't have anyone to look up to. We can't have anyone to aspire to. We can't have any hope. Because I guess in his world, the real sort of red-pilled MAGA world that he lives in now, winning is the most important thing. It doesn't matter about morality, how you play the game, right or wrong. It's just a matter of who wins and who has the most power. And he was basically saying that you can't have superheroes in a fantasy world. They have to be in the real world, and they have to deal with real issues, and they have to come down to our level and kill and be, immoral in order to win, because that's the important thing, the winning, not being good or being, doing the right thing. And it made me a little bit sick, and it kind of makes me understand why he's in the situation where he is now, where he's sort of been red-pilled, and he's always, every video, because I used to watch his videos all the time, because I sort of love the same things, of course, and I like that he spent a long time going into things and having a long conversation about things. But now every subject starts off, in fandom, but gets hijacked and taken into this MAGA rant, and it's always comes down to the left are ruining everything, the liberals are ruining everything, the people who want safe spaces or want to identify and want us to respect their pronouns, they're weak and stupid and naive, and they're ruining everything, and it's only the bad people that are real. It's the people who, will fight dirty. They're the real people. They're the winners, and you have to go to their level, and anyone else is stupid or naive and should be, mocked and, disempowered. They shouldn't have any, any power or any ability to protect themselves or anything. They should just be destroyed. They should just accept that the patriarchy, the the military mindset, the toxic male mindset, the MAGA agenda, all that's the real world. That's what's winning. And if you don't basically, follow what the Romans do, you'll be trampled on by the Romans as they, march through your town, basically. And he even gave the example of, with immigration now, we're going to have military going into families' homes and pulling out adults, grandparents who are illegal immigrants, and leaving children basically with the option of being left homeless or going with their family and being deported as a group. And he was justifying that and saying, but how would Blue Beetle deal with that? He can't. He'd just have to accept it and take part in it, because that's the real world and that's what's happening. He can't he can't, he cannot find a way to put these two worlds together and have hope and have goodness in this world, because that's what he believes. And it's almost like a denial of, well, I don't want to see myself reflected, so I have to remove all the mirrors, because you can't have any good or any moral people or any hope or aspirational idols or heroes, because then I'd have to look at the fact that I've given up on that and I've just accepted this is the way the world is, and I'm going to play that game and I'm going to win too, because I'm scared of being in a situation where I have to sacrifice myself for my beliefs. And I would rather die for my beliefs than become that person who kills for their beliefs and wins and survives, but then has to live with that, and either becomes a person who has no soul and doesn't lose any sleep over killing and murdering and doing the wrong thing to win, or basically having to live with that for the rest of your life You get to live, but you live with that burden. I'd rather be dead. I really would. Yeah. So, but he doesn't believe in that sort of that sort of idealism, or that sort of morality or beliefs, or the idea that you do sacrifice, that you don't compromise, and if that means you suffer, that's what happens. Not you win at all costs at other people's expense, which is what he's pushing and saying. That's what superheroes should be. That's the real world. That's what we need to deal with. And everyone on the panel was disagreeing with him and saying we can't take superheroes out of fantasy. We need to keep them in fantasy. We need to have them aspirational, because that was their purpose. That's what people want. And basically what he's saying is, you can't have that because I don't believe in that anymore. You can't have that because I don't want that. And it's like with Star Trek, he was angry that they basically made the Star Trek utopian universe into this dark dystopian universe, because it's what they believe, and they feel like they have to have the future represent today so they can attack, the government and the politics of today. So on one level he gets it when applied to Star Trek with the extreme left, but he refuses to see it with the right, and he's just fully red-pilled, and every video turns into some justification for bigotry and discrimination and racism, and yet he still claims that he's this wonderful, sort of near left, sort of near progressive, sort of, person, and pretend like he's not, that he hasn't been fully red-pilled to the extreme, fascist agenda of, this is how the real world works. You're the victim. Either become the perpetrator and be the winner, or, just accept that you're a victim and shut up and take it, basically. And don't ask for any safe space. Don't ask for any recognition, any acknowledgement, any equality, or anything like that. And it's just a sick thing, because I love superheroes. I love my Superman. This is my Superman. And people will laugh, cynical people like him will laugh at the 80s Superman films because they were optimistic, and say, oh, they're naive, they're not realistic. In the real world, it would look like this. In the real world, it would look like that. Fuck the real world. I live in the real world. I go to movies to have another world, because the real world is shit. It is full of discrimination and all those horrible things. The difference is I don't accept it, and I try to be better, and I want people to be better. I expect more of them than they expect of themselves. And basically what he's saying is just to accept that's what you get. The worst of humanity is the norm, and just cope with it. Or you're weak and stupid and wrong, and there's something, you're the problem. Not us, not the perpetrators. It's the victim's fault for, asking for surviving and asking for more, asking for something different. So it just makes me a little sick. So I had to do a little bit of counter programming for myself, and trying to do a short video, it just turns into a long rant. But this is the most cohesive. So if I try and do a shorter video, I might keep this as my long one, because the first one was just a total rant. I think this is the fourth video I've done. But yeah, it's like I said, this is my therapy in some ways. So sometimes I will talk my way through an issue. It might take 2 or 3 videos to get there, and then I'll do the last video up, because that's sort of where I'm at with it. But yeah, just realizing that that's the way he sees the world, and that he just is aggressively, justifying that we need to remove all these, superheroes, all these aspirational heroes from their safe spaces, and move them into, the dark real world, which is, it's always that whole, dark and gritty, everything needs to be dark and gritty. Like, that's the real world. Like those cynical people who think that's how everything has to be. And it's always them justifying, I can't do any better, so I want you to accept that that's the norm, so I don't have to, be sort of confronted with the reality that I'm a bad person, or I'm negative, or dark, or evil, or hurtful, or destructive, or murderous, or, bigoted, or racist, or whatever. I need to think that I need to believe, I need to see that world portrayed as normal, so I don't get a reflection back and realise that that's what it is. And he's asking all the other people who don't hate and aren't afraid and do have hope and do aspire and do want to be better and expect other people to be better, to just abandon that, to help support his view of the world, so he doesn't have to look at himself. It's a sick thing. And he's not the only person I'm seeing, with this issue and sort of justifying this sort of thing. I've noticed it creep into entertainment ever since like the 90s, and I've always sort of had an issue with it, and it's just gotten to that point now where it's becoming absolutely toxic with since Trump, and like the last 8 years has been this slow, well, it's getting pretty fast, this sort of bobsledding into that sort of world and away from where we were, and people justifying it. And that's the sickest thing. It's one thing to acknowledge something is happening, but to justify it because you can't see any better, or you don't want to go against it, or you're afraid to go against it, and you just want to make sure that when the troops come, that they don't take you away, they take your neighbour away because you've conformed and you've basically submitted, and it's just a sick thing. And I just had to do and say something about it. My little bit of counter programming here. But I'm going to go. Feel free to share, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think.